Hey, what's going on everybody? This is Noble, and today I'm going to be sharing with you my Superheavy Samurai deck profile. So basically every day when I check my notifications, this is one that was kind of overwhelming. I just got a crazy amount of requests for Superheavy Samurai profiles, and specifically a pure build, which I thought was interesting. So I was like, hey guys, why not? So we are doing a more pure version of the Superheavy Samurai deck profile. I did this one maybe about 4 months ago, but it wasn't a pure, so I just kind of want to delve into this. And also, if you're not familiar with the Superheavy Samurai archetype, they're pretty unique. They basically attack from defense position using their defense as their attack value, and they play 0 spells and traps, and it's like 40 monsters in the main deck, and it's really, really cool because they just have certain effects where if there are no spells and trap cards, and the spell trap cards are in the graveyard, they have certain effects go off. It's actually really fun, and they're surprisingly competitive. So without further ado, guys, let's get right on into this deck profile. So to kick this off, we're playing double Superheavy Samurai Benk. I do want to give a shout out to my brother John for letting me use his physical cards. I used the deck online, but he actually has the deck physically. So I just want to give a shout out for that. But anyway, so what Benk does is when this card is normal or special summon, you can change its battle position. Superheavy Samurai monsters you control can attack while they're in face of defense position, and then if you do that, you apply their defense for damage calculation. So that's really important because some of the Superheavy Samurai monsters, they can't just attack from defense position of their own volition, and this card allows them to do that. This is a really important card for this deck. I do recommend you playing it too. You could get away at running it with 1 if you wanted to, and me personally, I think maxing it out is a little bit too much. So like I usually say, I think 2 is a little optimal, but that's just me. Next up, we're playing triple Superheavy Samurai Scales. So Scales is really cool. What he does is if your opponent controls 2 or more monsters and you control no monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand. If this card is normal or special summon, you can target a level 4 or lower Superheavy Samurai monster in your graveyard, accept another copy of this card, and then special summon it in defense position. You will use this effect once per turn. So really, really good just being able to get some monsters onto the board to go into your place from there. Next up, I'm running triple Superheavy Samurai Magnet. Now this is one you could play at 2 if you wanted to. I did both. I'm choosing to keep it at 3 at the moment, but 2 did work fairly well as well. But when this card is normal summon, you can special summon a level 4 or lower Superheavy Samurai monster from your hand. And then you change this card to defense position. But the really cool thing about this is that, like its name says, Magnet, monsters your opponent controls cannot attack any other monsters except this one. So if you have 2 of these on the field, it really locks them. Kind of like that Marauding Captain lock back in the day. I think that was the name of it. But this is really cool because it allows you, again, to get another monster on board. And then if you have 2 of these bad boys out in the field, it is very problematic for your opponent. Unless they have a Raigeki. We're playing triple Superheavy Samurai Battleball. I call this thing Butterball all the time. But this boy, wow, does he allow you to do some things. So what Battleball does is he's a tuner, and if all monsters you control are Superheavy Samurai monsters, which I mean they're gonna be, you have no spell and trap cards in your graveyard, which you're not going to in this build at least, you can target one face-up monster your opponent controls that has a level, send both it and this card from the field to the graveyard, then special summon from your extra deck 1 Superheavy Samurai Synchro monster whose levels equal the total original levels of those 2 monsters in the graveyard. This special summon is treated as a Synchro summon. And you can only use this effect once per turn. So this card is literally kind of like a super poly for the Superheavy Samurais, except, you know, with synchros. Like, it's really cool. It's like, you know what? I like your monster. Ooh, them stars look pretty good. You know what? Yeah, let's use that. My brother has used this card on me so many times, and every time I play something, I'm like, I bet he has a battle ball in his hand, and he usually does. This card is really good. Being able to use your opponent's field as material to get out your big boss monsters is always awesome. And he looks really funny. Next up, we are playing triple Superheavy Samurai Flutist, and I know this is an unpopular one. I see a lot of people playing this at 1. I see people don't even play this at all. Me personally, I like maximizing this card out. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. That's totally fine. But let me explain to you what Flutist does before we get into that. So what he does is you contribute this card special summon a Superheavy Samurai monster from your hand. During either player's turn, when a card or effect is activated that targets Superheavy Samurai monster you control, you can banish this card from your graveyard and negate the activation. If you do destroy that card, you only use each effect once per turn. So you can basically tribute this card and then special summon, you know, a bigger Superheavy monster from your from your hand. But the really amazing thing about this card is being able to have that protection in the graveyard. Where during either player's turn, if your opponent was to target something on your field, you can banish it and negate and destroy. And that's really why I run this at 3, because, you know, I've done it at 1 and I've even done it at 2, and both times I would burn through those. Like, I really would, and I would wish I had an additional one. Well, when I maximize this card, I have just a peace of mind knowing that I can get more of these in the graveyard, knowing that even though I burned through that negate, hey, I have another one. Like, it, to me personally, I just really like it. It's an archetype specific negate that protects from the graveyard. That's really, really awesome. The caveat is it has to target, and that's okay. Again, if you want to run this at a lower number, that's totally fine. Just me personally, you know, Noble personally, this is what I'm running, 3 Flutist. Next up, running triple Superheavy Samurai Trumpeter. So Trumpeter is really cool. If you have no spell and trap cards in your graveyard, you can special summon this card from your hand. After this card was special summoned this way, you cannot special summon monsters for this turn except Superheavy Samurai monsters, which that's not going to be a problem. If this card is tributed for the tribute summon of a Superheavy Samurai monster and sent to the graveyard, and you have no spells and trap cards in your graveyard, you can special summon this card. Really, really cool. It definitely helps out a lot. The one I really hate playing against this deck is Superheavy Samurai Thief. This card is just, it's mean, man. So if you have no spell and trap cards in your graveyard, you've seen the trend yet, you can special summon this card from your hand. After this card was special summoned this way, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of this turn, except, guess what? Superheavy Samurai monsters. You can tribute this card and then activate one of these effects. You can destroy one card in your opponent's spell and trap card zone, then you can set the destroyed spell and trap card on your side of the field, which is really, really cool, especially in like Sky Striker decks where they need their spells as a resource in the graveyard, or if it's something that has a graveyard effect that you can activate next turn, you can just say, you know what, you don't need that in the graveyard, let's go ahead, let's put it right here. And then, or you can destroy one card in your opponent's pendulum zone, then you can place the destroyed card in your pendulum zone, which is really useful when you're playing against the 17 pendulum players in the world. You're probably going to use that first one, unless you're playing against Steve or Triff. Next up, running triple Super Heavy Samurai Wagon. This is one that came out in Etco. This one's really helpful. I did play it too, and I bumped it up eventually because I just really like what it does. When this card is normal or special summon, you can change its battle position. This card can attack while in face-up defense position, so you don't need Big Boy to be able to swing with this dude. If it does, apply its defense for damage calculation. If you have no spells and trap cards in your graveyard, you can change this face-up defense position card you control to attack position. And if you do, you add one Super Heavy Samurai Soul monster from your deck to your hand. You'll use this effect once per turn. So that is really cool. You just put it in tap position, and then you get to add basically one of multiple really good cards to your hand. I really like this. It helps out with getting consistency of those cards. You get to pick which one you need. It just helps out a ton. If you wanted to bump this one down, that's fine. You can do that. I'm running one blue brawler. This one's just really funny to me. When this card is normal special summon, you can change the battle position and it cannot be destroyed by battle. So this is kind of like a Marshmallow or Spirit Reaper a little bit. It can really just buy you some time if you have kind of, you know, more not optimal hand. And if you don't want to run this, that's fine. But this card does, like, it can, like, kind of, you know, especially in rogue duels, it can kind of, like, you know, trip up your opponent for a turn or two and kind of buy you some time. Running double Super Heavy Samurai Helper. Now this one I don't see played as much, but this is a really good one. During damage calculation, if your defense position monster battles an opponent's monster and you have no spells and trap cards in your graveyard, wow, what a shocker. Quick effect. You can discard this card and target one Super Heavy Samurai monster you control other than the battling monster. Your battling monster gains defense equal to that monster's defense during that damage calculation only. The really cool effect about this thing is when an opponent's monster declares a direct attack, you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one Super Heavy Samurai monster in your graveyard and special summon it. So you do want this thing in the graveyard. Just being able to special summon during the graveyard, basically like kind of like as a battle fader pretty much. That's really, really cool. It doesn't end the battle phase, but it does get you another monster on board, and it's quick effects. That's awesome. So next up, we're going into the Super Heavy Samurai Soul monsters. These are basically monsters that act as equip cards, spells and trap cards that are not really spells and trap cards. That you kind of still get by that restriction of this deck, but they do give your monsters really cool effects. So we're playing triple Soul Peacemaker. What this one does is you can target one Super Heavy Samurai monster you control and equip this monster from your hand or field to that target. While this card is equipped to a monster by this effect, monsters your opponent controls cannot attack monsters you control except the equipped monster. You can tribute a monster you control equipped with this card's effect, equipped by this card's effect. Then special summon a Super Heavy Samurai monster from your deck. You only use this effect once per turn. That is really cool, especially if you don't have a great hand. You just play a crappier one. Equip this bad boy to it, and then tribute it and then get out something straight from your deck that you need. That is really helpful. It helps the consistency quite a bit. Playing double Super Heavy Samurai Soul Buster, Gauntlet. You can target a Super Heavy Samurai monster you control and equip this monster from your hand or your side of the field to that target. It gains 400 defense. Ooh. But the cool thing is, during either player's damage step when defense position, Super Heavy Samurai monster you control battles an opponent's monster, and you have no spell and trap cards in your graveyard. You can send this card from your hand to the graveyard, and your battling monster's defense becomes double its original defense until the end of this turn, and that is really, really devastating, especially considering Big Benk already has 3,500 defense. Like, that can win, and then like your opponent's not going to know if you have this thing in your hand, so that is like kind of like a hand trap, and it's really, really cool. Just being able to like beat over and like win a game sometimes just with this card like Big Benk. That is really, really awesome, and that's that's just him. That's not even considering some of the stuff that's in the extra deck. So that is awesome. Playing double copies of Soul Piercer, it basically gives your Super Heavy Samurai monsters piercing damage, and then if this card is sent from the field or graveyard, you can add a Super Heavy Samurai monster from your deck to your hand, and that's really cool. Piercing damage, and that's cool, but just being able to search out a monster straight from your deck is awesome. Also running double Super Heavy Samurai Soul Horns. This card is so great. When you equip a Super Heavy Samurai monster with this card, it can make a second attack during each battle phase. And while this card is equipped to a monster by this card's effect, you special summon this card. You can use this effect once per turn. Just being able to attack twice, especially if your monster's attack is boost, like that can win you a game really easily. And then lastly, we're playing double Super Heavy Samurai Soul Fire Suit. So this is a less popular one from what I've seen, but this is a really cool one because you can target Super Heavy Samurai monster you control and equip this monster from your hand or your side of the field to that target. Its level becomes 5. During either player's turn, you can discard this card, then target a defense position Super Heavy Samurai monster you control. Until the end of this turn, it loses 800 defense, but it cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. So that is really cool because you just give it some awesome protection for that turn. That 800 defense loss is definitely worth it. And lastly, just for the hand trap / disruption, just playing double of the Machine Kaiju and then also triple Effect Veiler. If you wanted to play literally any other hand trap or disruption package, you could do that. I just kind of wanted to keep it as simple as possible, so I went with this lineup. But that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're playing double of the newest Super Heavy Samurai monster, the Super Heavy Samurai Scarecrow. So it's the Link one. It came out in Rise of the Duelist. Just one Super Heavy Samurai monster. It cannot be used as Link material while you have no spell and trap cards in your graveyard. You take no battle damage from attacks involved in this card, which is good because it has 0 attack. If you have no spell and trap cards in your graveyard, you can discard one monster and then target one Super Heavy Samurai monster in your graveyard. Special summon it to your zone. This card points to in defense position. You'll use this effect once per turn. So, I mean, it's pretty straightforward, pretty simple. You don't have to worry about taking damage from this card because this is the only Super Heavy Samurai monster that cannot go into defense position. But it just kind of recurs things from the graveyard as well, and it's honestly really helpful. Next up, we're playing triple of the Super Heavy Samurai Sword Master Musashi. I believe that's how you say it. Playing triple of this because it's a more pure build, but what it does is when the card is Synchro Summon, you can target a machine monster in your graveyard and add it to your hand, and then if you had a spell or a trap card in your graveyard, you wouldn't be able to normal special summon it or a monster with its name for the rest of the turn. But in this build, that's not a problem, so you don't have to worry about that. And this card can attack while in face-up defense position, and you apply its defense for damage calculation. Also playing double of the Super Heavy Samurai Ogre, because I'm definitely not about to try to say that. What this one does is this card can attack while in face-up defense position, and if it does, applies defense for damage calculation. What a shocker, right? This deck is basically just a lot of total defense shoguns. When this card is Synchro Summoned, while you have no spell and trap cards in your graveyard, you can destroy all spell and trap cards your opponent controls, which is really cool. Basically, this card is a Harpy Feather Duster, pretty much, with a decent amount of attack or defense, however you look at it. So this one is really cool. It's also a super rare version. I'm not sure how expensive it is, but I know it does look better than the common. Running double of the Super Heavy Samurai Beast Cubi, whatever. This card can attack while in a face-up defense position. It applies defense for damage calculation. If you have no spell and trap cards in your graveyard, this card gains 900 900 defense, technically, for each special summon monster your opponent controls. So that is actually really cool because, you know, you're more than likely your opponent's going to have a board full of them, special summon monsters. This thing can get up really big, really quickly, and can beat over most of probably anything your opponent is going to have. So that is really nice. Also playing one Super Heavy Samurai Stealth Ninja and then one Super Heavy Samurai Ninja Saratobi. What Stealth Ninja does is this card can attack when in face-up defense position, blah blah blah. If you have no spell and trap cards in your graveyard, you can have this card's original defense to end this turn. If you do that, this card can attack your opponent directly this turn. So you can swing for 1400, which is cool. And then once per turn during the next standby phase after this card was destroyed by a card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon this card. The caveat is it has to be a card effect, but hey, it's a cool little quirk, I guess. This card, and then what Ninja does, same thing, attack defense position, you apply defense for damage calculation. Once per turn during either player's turn. If you have no spell or trap cards in your graveyard, you can target one spell and trap card on the field. You pop it, and then you inflict 500 burn damage to your opponent, which, ooh, you know, ooh, that's crazy. Playing double of the Super Heavy Samurai Warlord Susanoo. So this one's really cool because, you know, as always, attack defense position has a big attack or defense value. I think of this as attack basically when I see these guys. Once per turn during either player's turn, if you have no spell and trap cards in your graveyard, you can target a spell and trap card in your opponent's graveyard and set it to your side of the field, but then you banish it when it leaves the field. So it's actually really, really cool because you're basically, like I said, grabbing a resource after your opponent's graveyard, and if it does leave the field, more than likely you're making sure they never see it again too by banishing it. Especially with, you know, Sky Strikers, that's really, really nice. And then lastly, probably my favorite one, playing double of the Super Heavy Samurai Steam Train King. This bad boy, wow, he's awesome. So 4800 defense or attack basically is how you look at it. This card can attack while in face-up defense position, and if it does, apply its defense for damage calculation. Once per turn, you can discard up to 2 cards and target that many cards your opponent controls and destroy them. Alright, that's cool. We're finally getting into, you know, being able to pop things on your opponent's field that's not spells and traps. That is really nice. Once per turn, you can banish all spells and trap cards from the graveyards, and if you do, inflict 200 damage to your opponent for each card banished. If you play in a Sky Striker deck, this card would do a lot of damage. You can just banish them because they exist in the graveyards, which is really cool. This card does not want any spell and trap cards in the graveyard, not even your opponent's, and this thing has a massive body at 4800. This card is really, really cool. So yeah, guys, that's actually it for the deck profile. I hope you enjoy this one. Like I said before, Super Heavy Samurais are like pretty unorthodox for the most part, being able to basically just go into defense position and attack. So the really cool thing is, like, you're not going to take damage from these unless you're playing against like a Blue Eyes Chaos Max with double piercing or something like that. Like, you're basically swinging from defense position. Like I said, they're all total defense shoguns, which much cooler effects, and it's just a lot of fun to play. This is a super budget deck. You can pick this deck up on eBay for like 30 bucks maybe. You might have to get a few of the cards, some extra ones, but other than that, guys, yeah, it's a lot of fun to play. Let me know down in the comment below, have you played against the Super Heavy Samurais? What is your particular favorite Super Heavy Samurai build? Do you like a more of a, you know, generic or a pure, or you have some spicy text that you throw in? I'd love to hear your thoughts while you're here. If you haven't already done so, go ahead and subscribe. Absolutely love that. At time of recording, we're like 34 subs away from 2,000, guys. That is freaking insane. We're not even a year yet. Year's in March, but we're almost at 2,000, guys. You are amazing, and while you're also subscribing and making my day, make sure you hit the bell so you become part of the notification team so you don't miss anything that happens on this channel. And then also give this video a thumbs up if you like it. It allows my things to circulate around YouTube, which is why we're almost at 2,000, which is literally all thanks to you guys, because it's definitely not me. I'm not doing anything. Thanks for watching, guys. I love you so much, and as always, I'll see you in the next video.